Hi everyone, and welcome to your horoscope for the week of July the 13th, 2020. We have a really active and very powerful karmic sky playing out all throughout the week, where the main theme, starting even from the very beginning of next week, is going to be like a karmic stock take, like re-evaluating your inventory, everything that you have in your life, everything that you have worked for. This is going to be one of those moments when the sky invites all of us to rethink, reconsider, or at least throw a retrospective look at where we stand in our lives materially. What power do we have over our lives, over the lives of others, and our relation with external reality, with physical reality, with society, if you will? And most importantly, how emotionally satisfying our material situation is, what we do in our lives, for example, our careers, our journeys, our mission, our soul path, everything that has to do with the sign of Capricorn. How satisfying are all our sacrifices that we make in order to progress in life, in order to have an influence, a saying in material existence. How pleased we are with our progress, with the balance in our lives. So this is a very strong and potent energy of a material type of wake-up call, in the sense that this is where the sky shows us where we actually are in physical reality, in the world of matter, in society, in real life. So this is going to feel very different for different people, depending on your relationship with Saturn, what kind of Saturnian qualities you embody, what choices you made in your life, and of course also your basic personality archetype. So this will be very different individually, but collectively all of us might be really in the same boat. This is a time of reflection, a time of clarity, where the karmic forces are revealing to us, even from the very beginning of the week, where January's, if you remember the 12th of January 2020, when we had the iconic, the very rare Saturn and Pluto conjunction, which started transforming, changing the world profoundly, all of its facets, all of its sides, all of its function. As I said in all my previous horoscopes, the deconstruction and then reconstruction, a phase of centralized power, of normality basically, of our collective material lives. So that Saturn and Pluto conjunction took place at 22, 23 degrees of Capricorn, and in the present moment, Jupiter and Pluto are both touching on that degree. They have retrograded back there. So everything that was left unfinished, uncompleted, unmanifested perhaps, is now going to be revised, and more very significant and relevant karmic events are going to manifest. Because Jupiter is the planet of expansion, it is the planet of truth, and it's retrograde as well. So this is where it is actually going to pull all the big truths. And since it's conjunct with Pluto retrograde, Pluto is what reveals the secret, the shadows, the corruption, the filth, all the unpleasant elements which have been hidden from our sight. So, the conjunction of these two massive power players reactivating that degree of Capricorn. Now, this is going to be revelation, disclosure, the truth coming out, one after another, a massive chain reaction. And of course, Jupiter, especially in Capricorn, is the symbol of, earthly justice. So the justice system, court of law. And this is the moment when, people who embody the symbolism of Capricorn, as in leaders, big bosses, CEOs, very, very influential people who have power in the world, who have power over society and industry, etc. Well, they are going to be brought to justice if it's the case, and chances are, well, it is the case. Pluto is also the planet of transformation, so this is where some leaders are going to fall, or they will have to give up, they will have to surrender. And at the same time, Jupiter and Pluto together, Pluto the god of death, it can all of a sudden reactivate the coronavirus situation, make it evolve, make it, Pluto can be the hand of faith, so it can direct it in a certain direction. It can increase it, it can amplify it, it can expose it for what it is. So there is no telling how this energy is going to manifest, but we know for a certain that it's going to be reactivated. So more very powerful, symbolic, karmic events are going to take place on the world stage, and it's going to agitate us, it's going to frustrate us, it will provoke a very, very, very strong reaction, because at the time of the Saturn and Pluto conjunction, the Sun was there also, so it was Saturn and Pluto conjunct the Sun, and now Saturn and Pluto are gonna be opposite the Sun. So this will be a balancing out, an equilibrium of the energies. Everything that their conjunction back in January produced is going to manifest right now in a different way, in a more balanced way. So, balancing requires a lot of action from our behalf as well, as in the power of the people, the citizens, or regardless of which role you play, you are going to be called to react to this. And the very first reaction, the sign of Cancer, is an emotional one. So, this is going to be the first phase when it will really, really sink in for the people, for the citizens, for the collective, that they will have to take action sooner or later. Because the time of the conjunction, now, even though astrologers and, mystics, seers, oracles, whatever, have already spoken about this, even from as early as the year 2000, because it was obvious, but still it took the human collective by surprise pretty much, because no one actually expected it to play out in this manner. And it doesn't matter if there were astrologers or seers or mystics who spoke about this, but their word was pretty much irrelevant for the most of the world. So that was a big surprise, a big shock really. And this is where the opposition of these planets are definitely not going to be a shock anymore, or they will not catch us by surprise, but rather the tension is going to grow and grow and grow. And when an opposition, as I said earlier, an opposition is a balancing out of the symbolism and the energies of the two planets. And in this case, it's not two planets because it's the Sun in Cancer, and then Jupiter, Pluto, and Saturn in Capricorn. So the Sun will, perform three oppositions. But the symbolism and the big picture of those oppositions, because those three planets are pretty much conjunct, is going to be very interlinked to one another. So as I said earlier, if balancing out requires action or any kind of response from our behalf, because this is where we represent the symbolism of Cancer. We are the people, we are the citizens, we are the unity, the human collective. So if we are needed to take action, well, that is what's gonna happen. But action is Mars. So right now it's just the information, the light of the truth, the sun, the light of our consciousness, that is gonna sink in, that is gonna process everything. And chances are we're gonna take action as Mars heads further into his own sign of Aries, especially around, in my vision, 17th of August, when it conjuncts Eris, the female awakener, and they both square Pluto, Saturn, Jupiter. So that will be a massive uprising. But even before we get there, slowly but surely, symbolically, in a very smaller scale, it can still be happening all throughout the world, just not on a massive scale. And of course, this phase is when whatever needs to sink in has to sink in first and be processed by, the citizens of the world, us. So you already know that the main theme, the main influence, the main energy of next week is definitely going to be the oppositions. The Sun forms with the Capricorn planet. But of course, we also have totally different types of energies in the sky. Some very, very positive and uplifting. But I am not really sure if the positive side is gonna be the main influence, because this opposition can be very, very heavy. For some people, it's gonna be very heavy, very impactful, very oppressive individually and then collectively as well. So for some people, it's gonna be like they're under pressure from so very many different sides in their personal lives, even in their inner world, and then collective reality in its wholeness is also big pressure. So some people are gonna really, really feel very, very lost. But as I said, this is necessary. This is the moment when a big truth has to sink in for all of us, both individually, which might have absolutely nothing to do with the global situation or even external reality. Because Capricorn can fall in very many different areas of life. It can be something which has to do maybe like with your emotional past, your childhood, your family, your hopes and dreams, goals, desires. So it doesn't really have to be job or material life or anything like that. But for some people it is going to be. And either way, that is what you have to process individually in your life, in your karmic journey, and it doesn't have to do anything with external reality. But on the other hand, there is that other side where all of us are citizens of this planet, basically. So the collective part, there is no escape from it. We also have to process that simultaneously. There is no any other way. Even if we embody full wisdom and try to just stay detached, well, the big truth, the information, the conclusion still has to sink in. So we are still observing whatever is going on the world stage. So even if it's just an emotional reaction, even if it's just deciding what it means for us, it is still the collective version of this opposition playing out in our lives. But before we get to the more detailed analysis of these opposition, let's say a couple of words about all the positive aspects happening simultaneously, which can be actually a game changer for some very resourceful, intelligent, emotionally intelligent people, because they can just focus on the opportunities, on the blessings, and on the inspiration on the sky. And one of these aspects is most definitely Mars sextiling Venus, the divine masculine and the divine feminine, the energy of the force of whale, Mars in Aries, and the energy of fertility, especially the fertility of the mind and communication, Venus in Gemini. So for some people, this can really make this is just an example, their online presence very magnetic, their communication very persuasive, magnetic. Other people can have this inspiration and motivation to create works of art, beauty through their speech, writing, poetry, digital art, for example, Venus and Gemini. Or they can observe whatever is going on in the world and filter it through the lens of their own souls and dish it out as a artistic creation, a blog entry, a social media post, or anything like this. So there is a lot of inspiration and action oriented aspect in the sky, and Venus sextiling Mars is just one of them. This can also be quite a good aspect, romantically speaking, because Venus in Gemini makes your words and communication, your mind, your mental sphere that much more magnetic, loving, beautiful, attractive, and Mars can give you courage to speak. It can give you courage to reach out, to contact someone. So it can be quite an inspirational energy. And then we have another aspect. The Sun forms a supremely harmonious conversation that astrologers call a trine with Neptune retrograde in the sign of Pisces. And this trine is going to be at its most powerful at the very, very beginning of the week, around Monday. It's going to be exact on Sunday. So this is also, faith, this is hope, this is dreams, this is fantasy, this is like an inner spiritual strength, the power of your soul, that regardless how external reality looks like, it is still, your inner voice can still be whispering to you 24/7 in the background of your mind that there is hope out there, that reality is just a hologram, that anything is possible as long as you believe and stay hopeful, that you are basically just a reflection of the source. So if the source is infinite, you are infinite as well. This is a very good aspect for artists, for creators, for dreamers, for spiritualists. It is the energy of compassion, of unconditional love, mercy, empathy, being there for others, solidarity. Simply said, it is the expression of emotional fortitude, extended self-nurture, where you extend your self-nurture onto others and bless their lives. And of course, equally, others can bless your life as well. And the most beautiful thing, that this is just a celestial inspiration. It is a free blessing. We don't need to do anything to receive it other than maybe try and uphold a little bit higher frequency, be a little bit optimistic and faithful, hopeful. Your dreams can be blessed. You can receive divine guidance through dreams, through visions, through altered state of consciousness. This is when your inner truth, your faith, your connection and relations to the source, to the spirit, to the divine can just shine out through you, and you can become an inspirational force in the world for other people. You can be a gateway to the divine mercy. It is a really wonderful energy, as long as we just allow it to flow through us, as long as we're open to it. And since this is a trine, it can be also quite a miraculous energy for some people who really, really have a lot of faith in them, who are really, really pure and compassionate, because it is like a celestial infusion of the energy of source. So if you use this energy and amplify it with your own beliefs, well, this is the moment when manifestation can actually take place, because there is an other energy complementing this in the sky, where Neptune holds sextiles, so harmonious celestial conversations, with Pluto and Jupiter retrograde in the sign of Capricorn, the sign of manifestation. So basically, if you allow yourself to be a portal for the divine, and also have a lot of faith, embody your inner power, and know that you are your own judge, your own ruler, your own emperor of your existence, of your life, and not even fate, the hand of fate, not even karmic forces, not even external reality can take away your sovereignty over your being, over your life, over your journey and destiny. Well, that can be a massive changing force where a miracle can just come together as a volcanic eruption of your faith, of your purity, and then your life can just be something absolutely different. And chances are an opposition, where there is a lot of tension in the sky, can also act as a promoter, a catalyst, a motor for all of this, to fuel this, even though the opposition can be quite heavy and negative, still, your needs, because that is basically the negativity and the tension, that you need to act fast, that your situation is dire, that you need to get things done, for example, that can be like a fuel. And then the sextile and this harmonious trine in the sky, a blessing, can be what allows you to enable the manifestation of the miraculous turn of events. So there is a lot of potential in the sky. I personally see this as the universe throwing in a rope for us to get us out of the mud if we might get stuck here. But of course it is up to us if we grab it or if we still try struggling. And now we get to the least pleasant part, where we also have a very powerful square, but we have been having that square even last week, on and off with the Mercury retrograde. And that is Mars squaring Mercury. So as I said earlier, it's angry words, is expressing your true, honest feelings without any filter. It can be like brutal and raw honesty. It can be misinterpretations. It can be clashes of opinions, clashes of life views, philosophies, etc. It can be conflict with your family. It can be emotional misunderstanding, confrontations, mediatic battles, of course. But fortunately, at least the conflict is informational and verbal and not as much physical, so it's still okay. And now we get to the star of the show, where at the very beginning of the week, the Sun already starts opposing Jupiter. And as I said earlier, the Sun will oppose more or less all these three planets, Jupiter, Pluto, and Saturn, roughly together because they're conjunct, so their energy is an amalgam of their representation, of their symbolism. But I'm still gonna split it up into three so that we can understand the symbolism of each planet individually. So we start with Jupiter because that is the first opposition when it's gonna be exact around the Monday or Tuesday, 14th, 15th of the month. So basically, Jupiter is our faith. Jupiter is our inner truth, what we believe in. Jupiter is our optimism. And of course, our sense of justice. And when it opposes the Sun in Cancer, well, individually, it really, really depends on your life, on your personality, on your decisions and choices. Because if you, for example, embodied Jupiter's symbolism in a very intense way, as in honesty, justice, generosity, even if it's a little bit excessive, you are gonna basically see the balance of these energies in your life. So for example, if you weren't generous enough, this sky might show you that you need a little change. You need to reevaluate your morality and your moral standards. If you've been extremely generous in a very silly way, maybe because through your generosity you could have compromised your material situation, well then this sky can show you that you need measure and discipline in your life. And ultimately, Jupiter is still the planet of faith, so it is considered by the ancients the big benefic bestower of blessings. So this aspect can also invite you to take a look at the balance of your blessings in your life. How well are you using your virtues? Are you grateful for what you have in your life? Are you grateful for what you accomplished? Are you satisfied with how just, fair, equitable your life is, for example? But collectively, now this is a totally different picture because Jupiter and in Capricorn, as I said earlier, it is exposing the truth, everything that is there. So the Sun opposite Jupiter, it is definitely time for justice. So for a lot of leaders, for a lot of people who represent the symbolism of Capricorn, for example, presidents, kings, patriarchs, leaders, bosses, CEOs, etc. This can be a moment of justice when they have to answer. And now we get to Pluto. Now Pluto in Capricorn is power. It can be material power, for example, how much money you have, how much material strength you possess, basically, as in your finances, whatever you can accomplish materially in this life. The power you have over other people, as in the influence, it doesn't matter in which way. So Pluto opposing the Sun, what did you do with your power? Did you squander it? Did you use it obsessively? Did you surrender? Were you ambitious enough or were you over ambitious? How well did you manage your obsessions, for example? How honest and truthful were you with yourself and also other people? So all of this can have to do with the symbolism of Pluto because it is transformation, but transformation requires the truth. So, for some people, it can reveal where they are in their lives in a very objective manner, regardless of their morality and what they think and their life views, their life philosophies. And Jupiter can expand this because it's conjunct Pluto, and Jupiter is not the predominant energy here. So optimism, faith, and your inner truth is not going to be the predominant energy, but rather the material truth, the objective truth. So absolutely, for some people it will be like a very deep and heavy spiritual crisis. For others, seeing the naked raw truth in their lives. For others, it is like a confrontation. If their desires, goals, whatever they want to accomplish, is it actually possible in this period or in this current society, in the world of matter, or do you need to surrender it or put it on the shelf for a better time? So for a lot of people individually, this is absolutely either the energy of, more ambition is required to get things done, or quite the contrary, we have to surrender. But either way, Pluto is retrograde, so its symbolism is turning inwards, and as it opposes the Sun in Cancer, well, regardless of what is going to be revealed to us in our own lives personally, because now we're talking about just the individual and not the collective, we also have the power to change it, because Pluto is that power. And for some people it is changing it through surrendering, for other people changing it through giving it up totally, eliminating it from your life, like putting the whole desire in the trash can, while for others still, it is mustering enough power and strength and influence to do it. But when there is an opposition, especially Jupiter conjunct Pluto and the Sun, well, chances are that it doesn't matter how we lived our lives, even if we were total saints, there is still imbalance in our lives because we are human beings and we live in an imperfect world, in an imperfect society. So, of course, this energy is not gonna show us that everything in our lives is perfect, it's fine, it is ideal. No, everyone is gonna have their own problems. Everyone is gonna have their own disappointments. Everyone will have to surrender and sacrifice something. But it all depends on our attitudes, because we can make a big drama out of it. We can allow this to break us down totally, because the sun is our identity. It is the light of our consciousness, our egos even. So it's not gonna be very pleasant, but because it is an opposition, it can also have pleasant elements to it. No one says it can't. Because if you, for example, if you lived a life of compassion and worked 24/7 for charitable causes, for like charities, you volunteer, this is just an example. Well, of course, there's nothing material for you to harvest. So you might be feeling a little bit under the weather, left outside in the cold materially. But at the same time, this opposition can trigger millions of recognition, honors, thank yous, letters, messages thanking you, honoring you, reflecting all your good deeds. So this is an opposition. You have to put in the scale of justice both of these. The scarcity of the material situation, because you didn't work for money, so you don't deserve money. It's simple as that. But you do deserve a lot of love, a lot of emotional faith and support, which can feed your soul and your being. The faith and belief of other people in you, that is pure soul food. So sometimes it's karmically, it's much more important than money and power and matter, because it can also get things done karmically. It's no problem whatsoever, but it requires from you to put it in balance, as in the thank yous, the recognition, the honors, the kind gestures have to matter for you, and you have to appreciate that, and then it's already a good situation. It's already under balance. But at the same time, if you are a person who really worked hard materially in your job, in your profession, to help, for example, either to accomplish a dream of yours, to help and support your family, your children, etc., and you had to sacrifice all your time, even your emotional needs, well, on one hand, this opposition of all these planets in Capricorn and the Sun can reflect back at you how well you're doing materially, and because you have sacrificed, you have all these material resources and opportunities available to you, but because you couldn't spend time with friends, family, emotionally, you might be feeling very empty. Also, this is also an opposition, but Pluto is there, the power, so you can transmute your material resources to, change the way you feel emotionally. You can, for example, buy a dream holiday for your family. You can perform acts of generosity. You can, as simple as give a bigger sum to a homeless person and then be the divine miracle in their lives. So there's a lot of opportunities and a lot of ways to balance out this opposition. So it doesn't really have to be doom and gloom whatsoever. If we know how to take the truth and how to work with the truth, this shouldn't have to be melancholy, depression, and rage, anxiety, and all of that. It can be just a stock take, looking at reality in a very balanced manner. Now, collectively, it's a totally different picture, because Pluto in Capricorn, especially retrograde, is abuse of power, misuse of power, incompetence, selfishness, but in an institutional way. Let me give you an example. Like, citizens don't matter, the priority is the salaries of the people working in that institution. Now, that can be Pluto in Capricorn as well. Jupiter expands all of this, and as I said, it is the power of justice. So it even infuses Pluto with the power of justice. So Pluto is going to pull to the surface everything that has to be placed under the hammer of the law. So for centralized power, the government and all this global situation, well, it's gonna be a big mess. It is gonna be full of tension. There, inside the institutions, there are gonna be conflicts, wars, breaking down of their alliances, political wars, political confusion. This is gonna basically pull to the surface the true incompetence of centralized power. But if all of this wasn't enough, this is happening at the beginning of the week under an anoretic Saturn. So this is gonna feel so very heavy for all of us, for the citizens. Actually, not just for the citizens. It's gonna be just as intense and stressful and even bigger hell for centralized power, for the leaders, for the professionals working in those institutions and organizations. So this is gonna be hell for everyone. But later on, as Saturn retrogrades further and leaves 29 degrees, the anoretic degree, well, then it's slowly gonna start opposing the Sun and perfecting their opposition on the 20th of the month. And on the 20th, we also have a new moon in the sign of Cancer, almost anoretic new moon, because it's happening in 28 degrees and a little. So that's almost 29, that's almost anoretic, that's almost a karmic discharge and opposing all these planets in Capricorn. So this particular new moon on the 20th is gonna be like out of the twilight zone, but we'll talk about that in another video when we analyze the phenomenon of that new moon. But either way, the opposition with Saturn. Now Saturn is our limitations, it is the obstacles. As Jupiter expands, Saturn contracts. Saturn is the density of matter, it is the rules, the traditions, the laws of physics. Saturn is basically where it's not mind over matter, it's matter over mind. Saturn is work, Saturn is karma, Saturn is all our sacrifices and the effort we put into manifesting in physical reality. And here manifesting doesn't really mean anything magical or metaphysical. It just means working and doing things with our physical bodies and accomplishing things. So, Saturn is gonna add the touch of karma onto all of this. So, it's not very good news because how we respond to the limitations, how we respond to whatever we have in our lives, however we respond to how well we are being governed and managed, our rights, for example, the correctness of the distribution of material resources, the fairness of the laws, the legal systems. So I don't even have to interpret this. Saturn opposing Sun, especially when Saturn is conjunct all the other planets in Capricorn, while it's not gonna be an easy energy, it is really gonna stir up people because, as I said earlier, it's all both individual, whatever is in our individual lives, in our own karmic journeys, regardless of our relations to external reality, and we add to that external reality as well. So that's another source of oppression, of limitations, everything stopping us from living our dreams. The Sun in Cancer, as in our emotional worlds, how happy we are with our lives, where we are in the world, where we, our cultures, our countries, our local communities, our families, our relations with the selves, our souls, because Cancer is the home of the moon, so it has so much to do with the soul. So are we happy with all of this? Well, chances are it's almost impossible for us to be happy because of whatever is going on in the world, Saturn in Capricorn basically. And then the karmic triggers of the 12th of January, the Saturn-Pluto conjunction. So that continues as well, and that continues on fast forward, because Mars is gonna activate all of this and it's a massive karmic discharge. It is turmoil, it is pressure cooker, it is react. There is no option not to react, even if it's just a emotional reaction, even if it's just reflecting at life and the balances in your life, balances of different areas in your life. Well, even that is more than enough. So one way or another, this Saturn opposition is really gonna stir people up. And on the other hand, let's not forget that Pluto can also represent sexuality, especially twisted sexuality. So in the sign of Capricorn, maybe sexual scandals, pedophilia, all the skeletons in the closet of our big leaders, the biggest influential people out there ruling the world, can instantly come to daylight, and Jupiter, the hand of justice. So even if certain news and revelations about these themes reach, the public eye, well, it doesn't matter who you are, you're still gonna react to it. It will still shock you, it will still revolt you, and chances are, if you had any credibility in centralized power and what they represent, well, this is where you're gonna lose all of your hope. Because everything can be tolerated to a certain extent, but when it comes to sexual crimes, pedophilia, and the filth of the filth, the bane of morality, this is where for example, a person killing another person, well, of course it is bad because you terminated their life. But then again, that just shows that we're animals. Yes, it is shocking, but we live in nature. We see that in nature each and every second of our lives. May it be the death of a mosquito, the death of an innocent kitten, or whatever. Death is basically part of our everyday life. But when it comes to something worse than death, because crimes of sexual nature, all of us know without a shadow of a doubt that you're gonna doom the life, the soul, the mind, the psychological well-being of that person, but potentially for the rest of their lives. And if you're a spiritual person, it's even beyond the rest of this existence. It can very well go to the next incarnation, but this is irrelevant. Well, that is when this is worse than a killer. This is worse than an animal. This is like, if there is a devil in human society, well, that is the devil. People who molest innocent children, innocent beings, innocent souls. So, it's definitely gonna have a massive reaction, even from those people who are usually very passive, who are very peaceful, who are very detached from this. And not to mention that the corruption, the theft, the nepotism, the business, the true nature of the businesses, for example, with the masks and all of this, that is simultaneous. So there are gonna be so very many things that are gonna trigger and profoundly stir up the souls and the emotional worlds of everyone equally. And how we react to that, how we process that, which conclusions we draw for us personally, well, that is gonna be seen towards the end of the summer, when it will be time for action. So, as a final advice on how to navigate through this energy, well, it's simple. Regardless of what you see out there on the world stage, for example, but more importantly, in your own life, whatever karma reveals for you personally, whatever information about your own life reaches you, well, don't judge yourself. Don't criticize yourself. Don't tear into your own flesh. Know that you're a human being, and every human being is supposed to make mistakes. Don't criticize yourself. Don't judge yourself. Don't punish yourself. Don't be unhappy with yourself. Because the divine acts as a mirror. It will judge you based on how you judge yourself. And you can be like an innocent soul who just lives in illusion that they're guilty or whatever. But if you judge yourself, it doesn't matter if you're truly innocent. The divine has to enact your will, your own judgment. So the best course of action is to respect yourself, to be kind to yourself, to be understanding with yourself, and no matter who you are, what your history is, you're still a human being. And human beings need love, need understanding, they need nurture, and if there's no one in your life to nurture you, understand you, love you, it's fine. You have yourself, you have your soul, you have your spirit, so it's still okay. Well, thank you so much for listening. Wish everyone a safe week and try your best not to allow this opposition to bring you down too much emotionally, or quite the opposite. Don't think way too highly of yourself just because the universe is sending you infinite blessings because you earned it. Just try to stay balanced, just try to stay neutral, because right now not being immersed in anything is the best course of action. And why? Because we don't possess all the information, we don't see the big picture yet complete. So before we have all the information that we need, we should rather just be patient and stay as just observers. Well, thank you again. Wish everyone a safe week. Until next time, bye for now.